focus on now when we're talking about the Wii gear. And what I realized about those teammates who really live their life in the Wii gear, and I'm so envious of them, and I really want to be more like them and try to get others to be more like, because I thought I was alive. I was breathing, drinking, eating, sleep, all the things that I thought people who had life did. But what I realized, I wasn't alive. Those people who are good teammates are really alive. I mean, they have lower levels of stress, higher levels of happiness, and just more content with life, and they make a bigger difference. And I said, well, what's it mean to be alive? And the acronym I use for alive is you are active, loyal, interested, viral, and empathetic. And that really sums, when you can really concentrate on those 5 aspects of your life and doing those 5 things, you really start to be, the best version of yourself, and that's a good teammate.
Can you drill down on 1 or 2 of those?
Sure. I don't know what we're doing for time here, but
we got about 15 minutes left here, and I think I'm interested in this because I looked at some of especially the empathetic part. I think that's amazing, but you've got me curious on the viral for sure.
Okay. Well, active is probably the easiest to convey. People who are active are people who have action. I can't begin to tell you how many schools I've walked to, and every high school gymnasium has this same sign. It's always Tiger Pride, Bulldog Pride, Warrior Pride. Whatever, there's that Pride sign outside, and I can't tell you how many times I walked right by that Pride sign only to notice that there's a weed growing up through the crack in their sidewalk, or there's a piece of trash laying right beside the sidewalk that you walk into the main doors. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not pride. Because someone who is pride would have bent over and pulled that weed out. And that's what a good teammate does. They don't ask whose responsibility it is. They don't stand there and waste time complaining about who should be doing it or why it wasn't done or what a tragedy that's allowed to happen. They just take action and they do it. And that's part of being active. I talk to my daughters all the time about it's a good teammate move. You got to make a good teammate move. Whenever they come home from school, I ask them 3 questions every day. I ask them, what'd you have for lunch today? Who'd you play with at recess? And those are just like setup questions, but I really want to know is their third answer. Did you make any good teammate moves today? And those are all those little things like pulling out the weed or sharing your markers with someone in a class who didn't have any. And I hear the most heart-touching stories from my daughters through those good teammate moves. So being active is about making good teammate moves. Some of the most important good teammate moves you'll make won't necessarily be positive things. They may be confronting a member of your team who is doing something wrong or doing something bad, and having the courage to take that action. That's a good teammate move too.
Yeah, and actually, we had one of those around here. My wife was telling me that one of the girls, there were a whole bunch of them in the car with their friends, and again, they're teenagers, and they start talking about other kids and this and that, and at some point it got a little bit, getting into somebody who wasn't in the car, and my daughter said, hey, that's enough. And my wife mentioned it to me. She was really proud of her for that. And I said, I agree. Just that, without starting to fight with their other friends, she just said, no, that's enough. We're not gonna do any more of that.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. And I said, boy, that you really can't ask for a whole lot more from a kid than that. When there's nothing to be gained, only something to be lost. Even on a level like that. Man,
that's touch. That's Dave. That's good stuff. And I don't know what else to say other than that, but that's what it's supposed to be about. As a parent, you're proud of that.
Absolutely. But how about loyal? And again, I got to tell you, you got a great last name because every time I look at your name, I think loyal.
I'm glad you said that. That makes me feel good. I don't always say that, but I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because that's. When I work with groups, I do this thing about values, and part of being a good teammate is, knowing what is important to you, what's the most important value to you, but also knowing what is important to the other members of your team, that not everybody's going to have the same values. And to me, when we do this list, the value that's most important to me is always loyalty.
Yeah.
So, but I thought loyal was about, blind trust, going along directions and not questioning anything. But that's not what really loyalty is about for a good teammate. Loyalty is about, prioritizing your team. Because you're going to belong to a lot of different teams in your life. Your family's going to be a team. The place you work is going to be a team. You might be in a I tell a story about a lady who I used to work with who was on a bowling team. She loved bowling. She was obsessed with bowling. And she had the cutest little daughter. And I'd always ask her daughter, hey, you coming to the game tonight? And she was, I can't. It's Mama's bowling night. And Mama's bowling night always happened on Wednesday nights. And that was our game night. And I would always see this girl, and I would try and entice her to come. Hey, come on, come to the game tonight. I'll get you some free hot dogs. And I would ratchet up. Hey, you come to the game tonight? I'll take you to Chuck E. Cheese afterwards. And she'd always send me the same response. I can't. It's Mama's bowling night. And I got to the point where, you come to the game tonight, I'll take you to Disney World. She goes, I can't. It's Mama's bowling night. Several years had passed, and I had not seen this when she got transferred to a different department. I bumped into her, and I said, hey, how's bowling going? She goes, oh, I don't bowl anymore. And I was shocked to hear her say that because she was so obsessed with it. I mean, I would ask her, can you type this up for me? And if it was a Wednesday afternoon, forget it. She was resting her wrist for bowling that night. That's the type of obsession she had. Well, she goes, well, why don't you bowl anymore? And she says, well, her daughter, long story short, has they give a test every Thursday. And she was really struggling with her math. And if you don't pass the math test, you have to stay and redo it on Friday afternoons during recess. And in her school, they always did something special on Friday afternoons for recess. So her daughter was really struggling with this. So this woman gave up bowling night, and every Wednesday night she gave this practice test with her daughter. She practiced over and over and over until she got proficient at it. So Thursday, she went in, she took her test as prepared as she could be. And that's what it means to be loyal. She's prioritizing her teams. In this case, her daughter, her family was more important than her recreational activity of bowling, as much as she loved it. And I think there's a lot of individuals that really struggle with making priorities out of their teams.
Well, I think the simple word you used was, it's not blind commitment. That's not what it is. That's that's the difference between faith and obsession.
Yes.
So
yes.
And I think that's really critical, because that's where we just butt heads when we think to loyal to what? The moment or to the game? Something bigger. Yeah.
Interest is very simple. The eye. It's just, there's so much power when you really take a genuine interest in somebody else. It's not just about you. You ask questions about their life, what's important to them, and that's how you build a bond. And then viral. It goes back. This is a Sister Eric Marieism. It's not nothing she said. It's an observation of her. When she walks into a room, her energy level and her mood goes viral. And you break it down to psychology. It's a psychological phenomenon known as emotional contagion. Emotions are contagious. You notice when you're around people who are in bad moods, it puts you in a bad mood. And when you're around upbeat, positive, happy people, it's not long before you start being that way. And it's so easy that everybody's going to be tired. Everybody's going to find a point in their life when they're having a rough day, a bad hair day, whatever it is. But you don't have to choose to be there. You don't have to stay there. You got a choice that you can mask your emotions to be positive, be more reflective. And you don't do it for yourself. You do it for your team. So you're just conscious of when you enter your room, when you enter a team function, you make sure your mood goes viral. And part of that is, we're talking about sharing. That's sharing. Part of it is sharing. When you share your own experiences, you empower people. You inspire them to go out. And you almost give them permission to go out and share their experience. You give them, validation to what they're doing or what they're feeling. And that's part of what I want to do with the whole be a good teammate mission.
Well, and on the viral part there, you mentioned, it's the sharing. And I've seen people, again, skipping over all the work that it takes to get to feel you have the comfort, the security, the trust to be viral in your attitude. There's a lot of groundwork to get to that point. But like you say, starting with active, understand what it means to be loyal and that interest. I just see it building. I don't know if you intended it to be that way, but as a caution to those out there who like to pick parts of a philosophy,
yeah,
there's a little risk in that. If you're grabbing just one part of the puzzle, it may not work out. And to force a kid out of you, say you got to be. I was told so many times I wasn't aggressive enough, to the point where I didn't understand what that meant. I mean, I was run all over the place, but I wasn't loud, or I guess kicking up dirt in the right way. Yet, so I tried to be somebody else, and it didn't work. But when I again got more kind of let that go, it's because it took me a while to get comfortable and to fit in with the team, and then from there you find that that relentless competitor, that's kind of fearful on the field, but still fair, that's what we want in competitors, and that's the viral attitude that you can't just start there. You really got me with that, because that's where I think a lot of teams go wrong, is it's all the hype that they want to be viral, and they're just, the rest of it isn't behind it.
Yeah, Dave, that's a great point. I really think you're right on that. Isn't aggressiveness, though, on a side note, one of the great ironies of sports? Where else in life is aggressiveness, a condoned behavior? It's generally shunned upon, to be honest. And I know they tell kids be aggressive, and I understand what they're saying. I'm not sure we're always choosing the right word there, because it's not always a skill that you want someone to have. Think about it. Would you want your therapist to be aggressive?
Well, and that's why the way you've laid it out, all those things, all that adds up to what people want in using that word. And again, it's because sports has become zero sum. That you can't take the two best players in the world and end up with two best players at the end of the game. No. I mean, it's just, apparently that's not possible. That somehow one of them is lesser, no matter how much the other may have risen to the challenge of it. And the last part, the empathetic, that is a word now that I'm happy to say is becoming synonymous with people like yourself. I have yet to see a person that's really been successful and connect with people that doesn't have this part of their platform. So please finish it off with this part. This is my favorite part.
I heard a story where there's a man and woman standing on a sinking ship, and the woman's crying profusely, and the man, the woman's holding on to this sack now, and there's the last lifeboat to get off this sinking ship is getting ready to depart. And just as that lifeboat is released, the man kind of snatches the sack away from the woman's hands and runs and jumps on the boat, leaving her crying on the deck. Now you tell me, good teammate, bad teammate? Obviously, looks like a bad teammate. Come on, he's making a woman cry. Looks like he pushed her, and it sounds he took her seat. Out the window went women and children first, and it sounds like he stole a bag from her too as he went. No, there's more to that story. Maybe. What if I told you that, that was his wife? What if I told you she had been recently diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she was unable to fly, so they took a boat overseas because they had heard about a possible cure? What if I told you that couple had, a special needs child at home, and if the man were to die and the woman had terminal cancer, who was going to be there to look after their special needs child? So now you look at it differently, and it's a much different perspective, isn't it? And you have an appreciation for the difficulty in those decisions that man had to make. That's empathy.
And that is what, getting back again here, we're coming unfortunately to the end of the show here, but that's a very unexpected, powerful way of describing empathy, and I do like actually when people come up with extreme hypotheticals, because we assume too much, and we're not being empathetic. We're not even being sympathetic. We can use those tones, those phrases, but we're really being judgmental, which means we're not connecting, in which case there is no loyalty, no interest, and nothing good that's going to go viral from that. Lance, you've got, again, an amazingly simple way. I know this was not an easy thing for you to do, but you've just made these points just, to me, inarguable and very easy for someone else to repeat. So before we end here, I've been putting on some of the posts, but please tell people how they can get a hold of you.
I'm loving watching this movement grow, and I'm enjoying the journey and the ride along the way. You can connect with me on Twitter at Coach Lance Loya. It's Loya. You can connect with